This is why public acceptance of gay people is declining. Nobody in their right mind wants to be completely inundated with pride flags for the month of June, whether you are gay or straight. We are all sick of it.
Specifically speaking as a Black American, but more generally as just a son of the West, if you will, or a product of America, I long for a time where there was a quote-unquote public code of behavior, where we would see people in public act with a certain dignified air about themselves, ourselves. You would see young girls wearing dresses and doing curtsies in public, and you would see families of not just Black people, but all people wearing shirts and ties and having photos where you would dress up and everyone looked dignified. And now, as an American, I find myself increasingly vexed because when I'm associated with America, or more generally the West, the connotation of the West is growingly sexual. Almost everything that comes out of the West, from social media to music to movies, everything that comes out of the West is increasingly associated with sex. How you have sex, who you have sex with, which pronouns you want. This obsession with pushing the boundaries of what people are comfortable with sexually is something that I've noticed, and it gives me a bit of pause because I don't necessarily want to be associated with culture that is increasingly pushing the boundaries of sex and talking openly about it, increasingly in public.
I decided to restart my celibacy journey after I gave up my celibacy journey for a man who called me cuz when he was hitting it from the back. This coochie ain't never gave big cribbin'.
If you consume social media, and unfortunately a growing number of young kids in the West are doing just that, it's nothing strange to see a song like this one where it's an open advertisement for sex. And the lyrics to the song is actually called Apple Pay, is that her body part likes Apple Pay. You could pay for it with Apple Pay.
So, do you think that when you shake ass in the camera and stuff, like, men are gonna look at this and be like, you know, that's a girl who I want to make my wife?
I don't give a. I don't want these. Man, let me tell you something, baby. I was raised by my father. You, I date one of you niggas. I keep two in the chamber.
That's become associated with not just American, but with Black American. But it was yesterday and the day before with the videos coming out where I saw this taken to a new level at a place that I never thought I would see it in my lifetime. The Olympics.
We got a naked man in blue, we got a flaming piano, and we got a singing guillotine to head.
As a kid, one of the must-see events was the opening ceremony of the Olympics. It was a family ordeal where we all sat around the television with our snacks and our soda pop, and we would enjoy not just the procession of the athletes and identifying who we knew and who we wanted to watch, but the show itself was a family entertainment moment that we could talk about, even going to school and at church. And to see even the opening ceremony of the Olympics in the West turn into an opportunity to show sexual, whatever you want to call it, it's borderline depressing for me because even the Olympics can't escape what is permeated every other medium of Western entertainment. Never in my life did I think that I would be using the words Summer Olympics and drag queens in the same sentence, yet here we are in 2024 as young kids around the world watching the Summer Olympics opening ceremony, watched a variety of drag queens. I don't know which word is appropriate anymore. Various people dressed in the various different ways, including a young girl at the table representing the Summer Olympics opening ceremonies. And this is deemed appropriate for general audiences. It's a kind of indictment on the direction of the West, really, in that everything is openly sexual, even for kids. I want to watch the Olympics. Okay, you want to watch the Olympics? You're going to watch some drag queens dancing on television half naked at the same time. It's just where the West is right now. I think we're at an inflection point in the world's culture where it is starting to be decentralized, and we're starting to see a mass of cultural influences become more competitive, if you will, as the Western media is moving more towards the kind of identity politics and the kind of media that is very specific for people in the West. as opposed to people who may be in other parts of the globe who may not openly embrace some of the more liberal, even sexual in nature kinds of media. And you're seeing a kind of demonstration of that, especially when you compare the opening ceremonies of the Beijing Olympics, where they say, hey, listen, this is our culture. We're going to show the world we have a lot of people who are disciplined, who can perform in unison, and it's about uniformity and working together, as opposed to what we've seen in the Paris Olympics, which is more sexual openness for kids to consume. When I look back on the opening ceremonies of the Summer Olympics, probably the most memorable moment for me was the Flaming Arrow, which just seemed incredibly amazing to me in the 1992 Barcelona Olympic Games. But equally as memorable was when Muhammad Ali carried the torch in the 1996 Olympic Games. These are moments that are etched into my memory forever. That's how iconic the Summer Olympic opening ceremony was as someone growing up. And even then, when I was probably grade school, I can still remember being around the TV with my family and us talking about it for days, weeks. You remember what happened during the Summer Olympics?
I think there's probably one other job that you're about to get into that is really hard and really scary. You're about to be a mom. How is that feeling? Pops. Oh, let me get it together. About to be a pops.
When I look at the West these days, what I see is a culture that doesn't have any concrete definitions anymore. Everything can be redefined, from who I am and what pronouns I use, to who is a mom and a dad, and what is a family, and how do I see myself, and just everything is in flux. And so for young kids, I imagine that this kind of environment is not only confusing, but it's very difficult to wrap your head around what is what. And then when you turn on the Olympics, and the Olympics is more the same, it reminds me that maybe we're in an age where you're going to start seeing a growing number of people in other parts of the world say that if this is what the Western culture is going to be, we're going to have to redefine what our culture is, because if we don't, we're going to have a culture that's in flux, much like what people in the West are seeing these days.
If I were the president, okay, Madam President, I would do this. We would have every man not circumcised at birth, vasectomy at birth, and then upon 18 or 21 or whatever age the ovary having health secretary decides, they can reverse that after taking a long battery of tests and showing proof of income and a 5-year plan to raise a child. Well, does that sound like fascism? I think we got to reverse the curse. I think a little revenge is in order.
As a son of the West, I understand the importance of freedom as a bedrock principle under which the West defines itself. The freedom to say what you want when you want, to be with whom you want, to marry whom you like, to be with that person or people in whatever manner you choose to believe in what religion you choose to, etc. Even down to carrying the firearm of your choosing. These are all bedrock principles under which the West builds the idea of freedom. But in the past, there has always been a guardrail in freedom, which has been culture. That society was run on a bedrock culture that two people, a man and a woman, would get married, they'll have kids, and they'll teach certain principles and ideas above and beyond. You can do what you want and feel how you want to feel, but you have some priorities, or you have things that society expects of you to balance your sole idea of what you want and how you define yourself and your individual freedoms against. And what I see from where I am is that social guardrail is disappearing. To see the Summer Olympics opening ceremony turn into what we've seen, some might call me a snowflake for thinking it, but it's just further illustration that there are no definitions anymore. So for young kids growing up in such an environment, how do they define themselves in a culture that has fewer and fewer definitions by the day? And what of other cultures that are looking at that culture and saying, maybe we need to redouble down on our own culture to make sure that our culture doesn't turn into that? Interesting times. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, guys.